Gucci, Gucci, Prada, Prada, 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 Gucci.
Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Min. There are simply too many videos or posts on various platforms teaching ladies or gentlemen not to date XYZ types of boyfriends or girlfriends. Of course, the case I'm going to talk about today is also a scumbag. Normally, even the lostest boyfriend may just deceive money or sex, but the devil I'm talking about today is fatal. On the evening of the 1st of August 2018, a young girl in her prime of life was brutally killed by having her throat cut in public in front of a dog catching machine in a shopping center in Zhejiang province. And soon, someone discovered that the victim was a dance teacher with 400,000 fans on Douyin, the Chinese TikTok. She was only 22 years old by the time she died. At the blossoming age, her promising life had just begun, yet on an unexpected evening, it was abruptly ended. For a while, speculations about the girl's death were ranging on the internet. And let's join the story by going back in time of the life of Chen Feng. She was born in 1996 in Zhejiang province, and her family was running a factory, so she grew up in a relatively affluent, upper-middle-class family. Chen Feng had a brother that was 11 years older than her. Therefore, she became this little prince immersed in the love of all her family members. Unlike some spoiled children, Chen Feng was soft-hearted and meek. She adored children so much that she wanted to become a kindergarten teacher. So she chose to study in education and joined a kindergarten after graduation in the year of 2015. As we mentioned, her parents loved her and they could easily afford to buy her many things. Hence, in 2016, her parents wanted to ease off her traffic burden, so they bought her a city center flat that's next to the kindergarten where she worked in the city center. Chen Feng's parents had cultivated her interests in dance since childhood. During and after the school, she spent much of her time practicing dance. In 2017, 2 years being a kindergarten teacher, Chen Feng resigned and became a full-time dance teacher. Her parents thought yet again to reduce her commuting burden. They bought her a Mercedes Benz. Well, we can see now how much her parents has been indulging her and loved her, and they basically wanted to sort everything out for their little princess. The parents even thought about this the other half of their daughter. They didn't need this guy to be loaded or anything, they just wanted this guy to treat their daughter well. You know, their family could keep providing for their little prince, even after she got married. They even thought of buying a machinery manufacturer for their daughter to run in the future when she got married. At least by operating with this tiny industry, their daughter could live comfortably, they thought. In the year of 2017, Chen Feng seemed to start dating someone. It was when she was changing into these performance costumes. Her colleagues saw some tattoos on her, a cat and a dog and some names on her back. They teased her and asked if she had a boyfriend. Chen Feng smiled shyly and nodded. The guy was Wu Yidong, who was 5 years older than her. According to Chen Feng's high school classmates, the two had actually known each other since then, back in the high school years. And according to Wu Yidong later on, he admitted that the two met in a pub back then. Because of her outstanding appearance, Chen Feng actually had a large number of admirers back in the school years. She was soft-spoken, kind-hearted, attractive, and well-mannered. Especially when dancing, Chen Qiaofeng was like a dazzling star. Although Wu Yudong was from the same city, his parents had been working as beekeepers in Inner Mongolia for many years. So he grew up with his grandma in Zhejiang province since childhood and came from an ordinary family, especially compared to Chen Qiaofeng's family. Wu Yudong graduated from the same high school as Chen Qiaofeng. He was studying cooking. After finishing school, he worked temporarily as a clothes salesman, but didn't have a regular work anyway later on. He won Chen Qiaofeng's affection through persistence and sweet words. On a day in August 2017, Chen Qiaofeng's parents went to hospital in the city center. After they're done with their affairs in the hospital, right, they wanted to pay a visit to Chen Qiaofeng's flat in the city center. You know, they wanted to do some cleanup for her. It's like a norm for any spoiling parents. And my parents did that as well. When I lived alone, they would visit me without giving advanced notices. You know, kind of awkward, but they loved me. I knew it. I think that's similar situations in the story. And they didn't know, of course, in advance that their daughter has been dating. Otherwise, they wouldn't just walk into their daughter's privacy. Anyway, they saw this guy lying in the bedroom of their daughters, and it was already past 10 o'clock in the morning. Chen Qiaofeng was already left for work, and well, she was not home. Seeing Chen Qiaofeng's parents arrived, Wu Yidong didn't just get up or tidy up. You know, he instead shut the door in front of the parents and go back to sleep. A couple of hours later, Chen Qiaofeng's mother couldn't help but nag her husband to knock on the door and woke up the stranger and ask what was going on, although they kind of expected that it was her boyfriend or something. Wu Yidong was woken up reluctantly, so he didn't talk much when confronting the parents. So their first impression to each other wouldn't be too good, would they? In the Spring Festival in 2018, Wu Yidong's parents came back from Inner Mongolia and spent holidays in Zhejiang province. So Wu Yidong brought Chen Qiaofeng to meet his parents. And as expected though, they loved Chen Qiaofeng, adored her instantly when they just met her. And you know, we have those red pocket things in China, right? For our Spring Festival. But most of us got very little money in this red pocket thing, especially in the south of China. Wu Yidong's parents loved Chen Qiaofeng so much that their first red pocket to her contained 10,000 yuan in it, which was 1,514 US dollars. That was a lot of money, especially when it comes from a red pocket. I had never ever received that much amount of money in a single red pocket myself. And when Wu Yidong's mother was ill, Chen Qiaofeng often paid her visits and took care of her in the hospital. Although Wu Yidong didn't leave a good impression to Chen Qiaofeng's parents, but these two had already met each other's parents at this point. But the indecency in their relationship surfaced gradually, especially after they met the parents. After the sweetness of the early stage of the romance, Chen Qiaofeng started to discover the extreme and violent side of Wu Yidong's personality. One incident happened in February 2018. After the couple had some quarrels, Chen Qiaofeng left to work. Instead of chasing her right after, Wu Yidong would come out of nowhere and stopped her car in the middle of the road and forced her to give out her car and phone, then left with her belongings. It was 2018. Many people were using their phones to do basically everything in life, especially young people at the time. Like I did. If someone took my phones, I couldn't live, literally, especially if I were in a rather not familiar environment or situations. He was like a robber, grabbed whatever he wanted and disappeared. Gave no pity nor cares to Chen Qiaofeng at all when he had done all this. So Chen Qiaofeng was crying alone in the middle of the road for so long. until she met this nice pedestrian who lent her a phone to call up her families. Chen Qiaofeng's brother met this Wu Yidong guy the first time when the brother was visiting him to retrieve his sister's belongings. You know how ridiculous that is, right? So now, finally, Chen Qiaofeng's families knew all about Wu Yidong's outrageous behaviors, which Chen Qiaofeng had never ever told them because she didn't want to worry them. And after this hijacking incident, everyone in her family hated this Wu Yidong for sure. Furthermore, to convince her, her grandmom even asked for divinations, using the guards to back up their theories that the two wouldn't end well, so might as well just break up for good, you know. Even the grandma say so. If the grandma's words not counting, they even ask the guards for it. So, please. Everyone in her family was strongly against them, but she was so love-struck that she just wouldn't listen. Then another incident took place in the midnight, April 2018. The elder brother picked up a phone call in the middle of the night. It was his baby sister who was crying in the other side of the phone. She cried to tell her brother that Wu Yidong was kicking her front door and begged her brother to come. And I bet no brother who dotes on his own sister would tolerate such things. So he was all angry and ready to have it out with this boyfriend. But as expected, this coward fled already by the time her brother arrived. They then discovered this had smashed the front bumper and onboard display on her Mercedes-Benz. His behavior has truly escalated from emotional control to damaging this girl's properties, and he was this close to harm the girl herself. But after each quarrels and conflicts, Wu Yidong would beg for forgiveness in tears, even kneeling down and claiming that Chen Qiaofeng was the love of his life, that he would not live a day without her. Wu Yidong exploited Chen Qiaofeng's soft-heartedness through his melodramatic way and empty promises. Like in many cases where the victims were constantly mentally manipulated, Chen Qiaofeng forgave Wu Yidong time and time again. In short, like other victims controlled by emotions, Chen Qiaofeng was also in an extreme passive state and found it difficult to get out of this predicament like a cat on a hot tin roof. She could only forgive Wu Yidong time and time again. And thank goodness, only 1 month later, in May 2018, Chen Qiaofeng finally ran out of her kindness. She decided to break up with this guy for good, as she accidentally discovered that this guy had been gambling and he had lost serious amount of money on it. But what did he do? He fetched a locksmith, broke into Chen Qiaofeng's flat when she was out and about. Then he stole her clothes and documents. The incident was brought to the police eventually. However, despite how shit this guy's nature was, he knew how to win this girl time and time again. Chen Yidong begged for forgiveness, again using the same old tricks. He even bought her a puppy as a gift to apologize. Chen Qiaofeng softened her heart again. And yes, no one can say no to a puppy. I can't. But what she didn't know was that her endless kindness only allowed Wu Yidong's outrageous behavior to aggravate. Only a couple of weeks later, on the 25th of May 2018, the two took a short trip to Hangzhou City for tourism. It was during this trip that Chen Qiaofeng spontaneously danced for a short amount of time on this West Lake sightseeing boat.
Gucci Prada Prada Gucci Gucci Prada Prada Gucci Gucci Prada Prada Gucci Gucci Prada Prada Gucci Gucci Prada Prada Gucci.
Wu Yidong uploaded it to Douyin account, registered in Chen Qiaofeng's name. While Douyin is this Chinese TikTok. No one expected though, the video went viral, and the number of likes reached 1 million in a short amount of time. Seeing business opportunity in it, Wu Yidong began to coax and deceive Chen Qiaofeng to continue shooting videos and uploading them to the Douyin account, maintaining the popularity. In just 1 month, Wu Yidong uploaded 59 videos of Chen Qiaofeng. The number of fans of this particular Douyin account had reached over 400,000. Wu Yidong wanted to make profit out of this Douyin account though. Chen Qiaofeng only just wanted it as a fun. She didn't want to make a fool out of herself by uploading these videos and make it as a living. Guess people in the past had different opinions of being an influencer, especially on this Douyin thing. It was a different mindset at the time. When I recorded it, I couldn't think of a proper way to describe it. But what I'm trying to say was that back then, within China's online landscape, female Douyin hosts were frequently subjected to defamation. Many people regarded Douyin female anchors, especially dancing anchors, as risque anchors. This was grossly unfair and unreasonable. Nowadays, this online environment has transformed, with more accepting that female can have a normal occupation in live streaming or short video sector. How difficult it is for female to succeed in either the West or the East. And Chen Qiaofeng herself was really conservative, and I bet you could tell from all these narrations above about her. So when she attracted so many fans, she was happy though. She didn't want to change her life, she still wanted to be the dance teacher instead of an influencer on Douyin. Well, as an example, we don't once told Chen Qiaofeng that there was this company willing to pay 3,000 yuan for her to do some advertisements, right? But Chen Qiaofeng didn't agree to take it. She refused to make money out of her little habit. Regarding this matter, when Chen Qiaofeng chatted and complained to her friends, even her friends said Wu Yidong wasn't having good intent. He was just using her, milking her to make money. Like we have mentioned above, that Chen Qiaofeng was this private person. She's not often talked about her private life, not to her families. She didn't talk much either to her friends. Anyway, these outsiders often had clearer minds with situations like that, right? On the 20th of June 2018, the couple had another quarrel. At 2 o'clock, when Chen Qiaofeng was asleep, Wu Yidong transferred more than 10,000 yuan out of her Alipay account. Even nowadays, Alipay is a commonly used online and mobile phone payment method in China. So when Chen Qiaofeng woke up and realized that her money was just being transferred, she kicked Wu Yidong out of her place. During the scuffle, Wu Yidong damaged her front door. In a panic, Chen Qiaofeng called her brother for help again. Upon seeing this, Wu Yidong fled immediately, like many times before. He was not a man to take the consequences. In addition to this incident, Wu Yidong had asked Chen Qiaofeng to give him back this red pocket money. Remember that his parents had given Chen Qiaofeng this red pocket that contains more than 10,000 yuan cash. Chen Qiaofeng said though, "Didn't you spend all the money on yourself? How dare you ask me for it? Besides, if I were to return it, I should give it to your parents, not you." But you know how horrible this guy was, and I bet she at that point didn't want to continue their relationship anymore. So Chen Qiaofeng actually returned this amount of money to Wu Yidong's parents. Even though Wu Yidong's parents refused to accept it, she then gave it to Wu Yidong's cousin and asked her to hand it over to his parents. She wanted an end, clearly. From the view of Chen Qiaofeng's family, you know how much of a relief when they had thought that their little princess finally changed her mind and determined to break up with this scumbag. Her mother brought up instantly that they should sell the city center flat of Chen Qiaofeng's so she could move back and live with them. They could take care of her until this had stopped harassing her. And yes, although Chen Qiaofeng didn't disclose all the details of the relationship, her parents knew it. This guy was not a decent man. Therefore, with Chen Qiaofeng's agreement, her mother sold her flat in the end of June 2018, and she finally moved back and lived with her parents. On the 12th of July 2018, Chen Qiaofeng determined to break up with Wu Yidong completely, right? So she blacklisted this guy on all her social medias, and she even took the effort to change her phone number, just to get rid of him. And it is so tedious to change your phone number, especially when you have tied it to all the social platforms you've got in China, because they require you to tie it with mobile phone numbers, so you can imagine the hassle. But if you think Wu Yidong would appreciate her efforts, and then you and me are as naive as Chen Qiaofeng. He got her new contact somehow and kept sending her threatening messages and calling her with coercive attitudes. But she made up her mind, right? She gave no response to all his outrageous actions until one day he threatened her with the puppy he bought her. And I bet when she brought up the breakup, he would claim that this puppy was his property, as he bought it for her. Knowing what he had done with this red pocket thing, that's something he definitely gonna do. Since I myself have 2 puppies, I can't stand to read in details of the exact words or ways he threatened her with the puppy thing. But if my puppy was used to threaten me, I guess I would do the same as Chen Qiaofeng, to respond for whatever he wanted to say or do. She had to contact Wu Yidong and offered to buy this puppy back with 2,800 yuan, which was 424 US dollar back then. And from reviewing all the messages Wu Yidong had sent her, everyone could tell how unstable he was. He would text sometimes he couldn't live without her, and then in the next following message he would say something like he wanted to finish her. He became this really unstable maniac, or maybe he was indeed this kind of people, just that he pretended to be normal when they were together. On the 26th of July 2018, Chen Qiaofeng was hanging out with her friend in a public park, right? She's been telling and talking to her friend how miserable she was with this whole situation of her boyfriend, or ex-boyfriend, to be precise. But all of a sudden, Wu Yidong came out of nowhere and started to attack her friend in public. Wu Yidong even took out a knife when the two were having scuffles. Chen Qiaofeng screamed and rang the police immediately. When the call pulled through, Wu Yidong escaped again as usual. He would not face the consequences, he would not confront the police. Despite Chen Qiaofeng didn't want to worry her families, she didn't want to tell them this park incident. She still needed an outlet for her emotions. She confided in her close friends about it. Her friends, on the other hand, worried sick about her situations, so they had to tell her parents, even though it's against Chen Qiaofeng's will. They wanted her to be safe, protected by her families. Chen Qiaofeng's mother had these feelings that this guy must have been stalking her daughter. Otherwise, how could it just happen to appear in that random park Chen Qiaofeng and her friend went to? So the mother took a tighter care for her daughter. She didn't allow her daughter to drive out herself alone anymore. The parents would send her to work and pick her up after work. But her parents couldn't just follow her 24/7, right? The tragedy took place on the 1st of August 2018. From very early morning that day, Wu Yidong sent a list of messages to Chen Qiaofeng, saying that he wanted to meet her up, there was something he wanted to say. You can see from this picture, the original is provided by Chen Qiaofeng's mother, and I added the English translation to it, while she ignored him as he deserved it. The tones in his messages changed. He didn't want to meet her anymore, he said. He wanted to die with her. We don't know anymore now how Chen Qiaofeng felt about these messages. She could have treated it as his routinely harassing messages, so she didn't take it seriously. That's why she would text her parents that she was going out for movies with her friends that day. While she was going out with her friends, right, her parents must thought that she wouldn't be left alone, so it's okay. And grown-up children don't often hang out with their parents. They needed their own space, So the parents of course agreed and just told her to be safe. Chen Qiaofeng got off work and hopped on her friend's car. Both drove to a cinema as what she had told her parents. But what she didn't know was that Wu Yidong had been hiding in the parking lot. Witnessing that she was getting into a stranger's car, he kept picturing that Chen Qiaofeng was with this another guy and betraying him despite the two had long been broke up. But you know these toxic thoughts. Later, when Chen Qiaofeng came out of the cinema with her friends, they hung out in the crowds in the city center, in the shopping mall, like the usual. And her friend wanted to get some bubble teas for both, so this friend left her. But it'd be just a couple of minutes, right? And she was standing in the middle of the people. Just so many people were there, near to her. No one would have thought it would cost her life. It was in the year of 2018, right? And she was in the middle of many people. Even her crazy act wasn't crazy enough to harm her under such circumstances, but accidents always happened in the most unexpected way. At 8:58, Wu Yidong won a mask and came out of nowhere to suddenly strike and swing a knife against Chen Qiaofeng. She was stabbed 16 times. Wu Yidong caused 32 injuries on her. The total length of the damage caused on her was 40 centimeters long, which is about 1575 inches. And many of these injuries were not some simple stabs. He twisted the knife when it was in her body, causing significant damage to her. He basically wanted to leave no chance for her to survive. According to the CCTV, this whole attack lasted for only 3 minutes. As the passers-by realized what was going on, they tried to help and Wu Yidong escaped at the moment when they were coming at him. Because it was in the city center and under all the CCTV, Wu Yidong knew that he could not escape from this. So he turned himself in eventually. Chen Qiaofeng's poor family was only notified really late that day about their daughter's death. Her mother was displeased in this information, so she video called her daughter, but no one answered. Wu Yidong's first trial was taken place on the 3rd of April 2019, 8 months after Chen Qiaofeng's death. The court of first instance held that the defendant Wu Yidong illegally deprived others of their lives, constituting the crime of intentional homicide. After the breakup with the victim, he continued to harass her. In crowded public area, he stabbed the victim's vital parts, and the circumstances were heinous. Although he surrendered himself immediately after the incident, it was not enough to give him a lighter punishment. He was sentenced to death. Wu Yidong was not satisfied and chose to appeal. His family provided Wu Yidong's medical records of mental illness, saying that Wu Yidong suffered from depression after breaking up with the victim, trying to mitigate the crime through mental problems. In November 2019, the second trial upheld the death sentence to Wu Yidong in the first trial. The death sentence for the murderer Wu Yidong was submitted by the Zhejiang High People's Court to the Supreme Court in Beijing for approval. After the Supreme Court approved it, the death penalty must be executed within 10 days. On the 31st of August 2020, Wu Yidong was executed. I wish this case could end here, but there were more bizarre things about it continually happening. On the day of the execution, Wu Yidong's family members surrounded Chen Qiaofeng's parents' house. And yes, you heard it right, the murderer's family surrounded the victim's family's place and threatened to harm them. I guess that's a reason why Wu Yidong was this twisted. His families were also problematic. According to the neighbors, these people were shouting and threatening the victim's parents because they thought the reason why Wu Yidong was sentenced to death was affected in a way by the victim's parents. They blamed it to the victims' families, saying that it's their fault that their baby son was sentenced to death penalty, and the fact that their baby son had harmed this girl was never crossed their minds. Chen Qiaofeng's family had to call the police, while they thought Weidong's family brought like 20 to 30 people to surround their house. Although the police arrived immediately, literally had to guard for the victims' families. They, the murderers' family members, were there to stop the victims' families from their normal life, from the 31st of August, when the murderer was sentenced to death penalty, to the 2nd of September. Until the 3rd of September, the police finally just couldn't stand by and watch this bizarre drama take place. They finally took those people in for educations. Normal people would acknowledge that a murderer is bad. It's damage to society, to the laws, to basically everyone. Having a murderer relative should be a shame to any families. And normal people will find problems from themselves, especially when their son was a murderer. With situations like that, they would, to comfort the victims' families, say sorry and beg for forgiveness. When it comes to this murderer son or murderer child, the best they could do was just to collect the remains of their executed kids. But Weidong's families were just like having antisocial personality disorders. They think that my son's death is caused by you, your family. Your family's child was gone, and my child was also gone. And I don't give a about why your child was dead. You have to bear the consequences. This is misleading perceptions and nonsense that they were threatening and harming the victims' families. The behaviors of the criminal's family have seriously interfered with the normal life and mental health of the victim's family, seriously violated their residential and activity safety, and suspected of consisting provocation and troublemaking. These psychotic families still thought it was okay until they were called off by the police. But even then, I think they still wouldn't recognize their mistakes. And I bet if the police didn't interfere on time, they'd take some stupid actions. I said in my previous video that it's hard to collect photos or images, videos about these crimes in China, right? But within this case, you must have seen many releases of the chat logs, photos, and some really detailed descriptions about the victims and their relationships. Aren't you a bit curious about it? Was I been lying to you about the difficulty of grabbing this information? After Chen Qiaofeng's case happened, there were disgusting rumors gradually spread like wildfire throughout the entire Chinese internet. They slut-shamed her, claimed that she deserved to die because she was cheating, she was a gold digger, she was yada yada yada. But we all know that wasn't true. But how could we know that? Chen Qiaofeng's brother and his wife were so grieved that they had to clear up their sister's past through a live streaming platform, urging the public to stop hurting the victim and the families by transmitting the rumors. And the victims' families had to stand out and accept the media interviews to reconstruct the poor girl's life from beginning to the end for the public. Therefore, they provided many photos and videos just so the journalists could spread the truth, so these vicious rumors online would stop harming their daughter. When the journalist visited the victim's mother, she said everything changed in her life after Chen Qiaofeng's death. Mrs. Xi, Chen Qiaofeng's mother, spoke feebly. She said the strength that kept her alive was to see the murderer pay with his life. Chen Qiaofeng's family lived in a 3-story small Western-style building, with 4 generations living together. Across from their home was this little building that Chen Qiaofeng's parents built for her when she was 18 years old. Mrs. Xu said that they spent more than 900,000 yuan to build this house for Chen Qiaofeng. The reporter said that it was a two-story building with an imposing door. Quoted, "We haven't done the interiors yet. We wanted to wait till she got married and then renovate it for her." Mrs. Xu added. Chen Qiaofeng had a 11 age gap with her brother, so she was the most spoiled little daughter in the family. And her Mercedes-Benz was the most valuable car in the family as well. Mrs. Xu took the journalist to visit Chen Qiaofeng's room. More than 240 days after Chen Qiaofeng's death, her room remained the same. When the light was turned on, the room was spotless. There was a feather duster at the door. Quoted, "Her mother often cleaned her room herself," unquoted, Chen Qiaofeng's father said. In comparison, the parents' bedroom was in a mess, with clothes piled on stools, cabinets, and scattered on the floor. On Chen Qiaofeng's bed, her mother laid out all the certificates and qualifications she had obtained over her past 22 years. On the cabinet in the room were photos of Chen Qiaofeng's in various performances. In front of the photos were a water glass with a jewel in it. Quoted, "She was like a child to us, so we prepared a stew for her," unquoted, Chen Qiaofeng's father said. Chen Qiaofeng was a girl, loved beauty. On her dressing table there was a small mirror. Makeup and skincare products were all over it. Next to it were two black lace dresses that Chen Qiaofeng loved the most before she passed away. Quoted, "We burnt the rest of the clothes," unquoted. Next to the TV cabinets in Chen Qiaofeng's room was a small door leading directly to a balcony. Quoted, "After breaking up with Chen Qiaofeng, one night, Wei Dong ran to outside of my house in the middle of the night, took a photo, and said, 'I'm coming up for you,' which he meant was there. At that time, when my daughter received that message, she cried and ran to ask me for help," Mrs. Xu said. Then Mrs. Xu took out an envelope from the bedside table in Chen Qiaofeng's room and took out a thick stack of cash with trembling hands. Quoted, "This is Qiaofeng's salary for last July, more than 10,000 yuan, holding her daughter's last month's salary. Before her death, Mrs. Xu couldn't help crying bitterly. My daughter's last month's salary was more than 10,000 yuan. We didn't need her to give us money, and my daughter was not spending money lavishly. But after she died, when I checked her bank account, it was only 6 cents left." Crying, Mrs. Xu accused that her daughter's money had all been used on her ex-boyfriend, Wu Yidong, the murderer who took her life. I said in the beginning of the video that I don't need to expand how bizarre some cats were to manipulate people. But how are these scumbags raised? I myself curious. Psychologically speaking, such people either did not have their parents' company and love during their childhood, and only empathized their own feelings and compensated for their inner deficiencies after adulthood. Or they have always lived in a doting circle and been overprotected, ignorant of human feelings and how the world works. They often feel that what they wanted, they must have it. They wouldn't stop until their goals are achieved. Like Wu Yidong in this case, whose parents raised bees in Inner Mongolia since he was a child. He grew up doted and became irritable in personalities. But why do many excellent girls like Chen Qiaofeng would fall in love with guys with poor economic conditions and irritable tempers like Wu Yidong? These people have one thing in common though. They will be good looking and have sweet mouth like honey. Those carefree and inexperienced young girls are easily trapped. Then how can girls like Chen Qiaofeng sharpen their eyes? As the old saying goes, quoted, "Those who ignore the advice of the elders will suffer the consequences," unquoted. Originally, Chen Qiaofeng's parents did not agree with her dated as Hu Yidong. But during the Spring Festival, Chen Qiaofeng secretly went to meet up Hu Yidong's parents many times without telling her parents. In the beginning of the relationship, when Hu Yidong threatened her life, she did not seek help from her families either, and endured those fears alone. How much strength and thought can a 22-year-old girl have to deal with a man 5 years older than her with violent tendencies? A psychological teacher in China once concluded that a man is as crazy when breaking up as he was enthusiastic when he was pursuing you. Then how can girls distinguish violent pursuers? It is said that those with the following characteristics are likely to be scumbags. They would frequently use words like die, kill, committed suicide, and I will kill you casually in speech. They kneel and fawn over you without limits. They are good for nothing but being good to you. They abuse or kill animals. When they try to get you, they humble themselves and go to any lengths to please you, not hesitating to demean themselves and wrap themselves in this cloak of infatuations. You know the comments. Come on, girls, stay away from toxic relationships and toxic people as soon as possible. You know, for some people, the joy of gaining something is far less than the pain of losing it. If you give them a lamb, and once they got used to it, when you want to take the lamb away, they will kill to get it stayed. Let's end the stories today here. If you kind of find my video interesting and could be your leisure companions, like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Just a little advance notice, because the girl in this case is just too pitiful. I decided to tell you a story about a female serial killer in China in my next video. I need to change my mind a bit. And bye!